Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. And it's very nice to connect with all of you. And I think we're on a very interesting journey in terms of brands and harnessing the power of video to leverage not just brand affinity, but also tap into newer customer markets and also to resonate with audiences and to build a relationship with them. So we're going to talk about advancing ROI and using video for that. And I'm going to I'm going to start with you, Rahul, because I'm going to ask you, what does ROI mean to you in your business? Is it brand loyalty? Is it customer outreach? Is it tapping into new markets? Is it all of the above? And we do know that it also is directly linked to business growth. But without laying emphasis on that, what does ROI really mean to you?
Thanks, Priyanka, and hi everybody on the panel. So I'm going to keep the response to context of video in terms of ROI here. I think so. And at Shimano Entertainment, our business is video. That's what we do. There are two hats which I'll have to play when I speak from a Shimano point of view. One is, how do we constantly create the right videos or content which other brands can leverage and sort of get their messaging out to people, be it through broadcast, be it through YouTube, be it through Facebook or our OTT offering. The second part, which is more from a marketing hat, is when I'm driving my business KPIs, which could be, depending on the business I'm promoting, how do we measure the ROI? So I think one thing for a fact, just before we start responding to that question, is that the benefits of video are pretty much everybody knows. It's a really powerful way to tell a story and connect with the audience set. And when it comes to specifically on digital marketing side, the video advertising helps us to boost CTR rates, phenomenally. So that's a great advantage we get as marketers to use video. On the other side, what happens is a lot of marketers look at video marketing to build their top funnel. And currently as a brand, where we are experimenting is, how do we look at video marketing to actually look at conversions as well? So for us, when it comes to marketing KPIs, we genuinely look at, obviously we start with the clicks, we look at engagements, we look at seconds viewed, when was the drop-off happened. We use tools to look at that. But at the end of the day, we are very, very strongly focused on building a conversion ROI, which could be a lead or a subscription basis the business we're promoting. So that's the level of focus we are driving towards video marketing.
So there's a lot of data-driven strategy associated with your business decisions on leveraging video.
Certainly. And that sort of is on the ROI level now. Earlier, it was probably on engagement and shares and clicks, but now we are sort of going deeper and looking at how do we run performance campaigns with video. Obviously, it's very early days for us as well, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Right. Okay, got it. Mansi, what about you?
Hi,
Sorry?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, go ahead, please.
So for us at Video Factory, we create content for our customers. We make marketing videos, we make training content, we make e-learning content. So whatever we do, our objective is to make sure that our videos help the customers get the maximum bang on their buck. That's all that matters to us. And whether, like I said, for us, some of the things, it's a lot of things that we're looking at. Definitely data is something that is really important, and to obviously measure the effectiveness of the campaign. But at times it's not always very easy. For instance, if we're doing an explainer video where, there are millions of people watching a video, it's really hard to actually derive, a very concrete result out of it. Whereas if you're doing a video which is more, a campaign which is more directly related to sales, which is related to making a purchase decision, it's easy. So what we say is that whether whatever your objective is, one thing that works really well is to repurpose the video content. So, depending on the funnel that you're at, the stage of the funnel, but repurposing helps our brands, Repurposing can be done in various ways. So you either repurpose the content itself, the entire video that you've produced, just changing the narrative, changing the undertone, the messaging, the music, you get a completely new video.
Yeah.
Also, depending on the social media platform that you're going to use it for. So like YouTube gets maximum engagement at 2 minutes, Facebook at 1 minute, Instagram at 30 seconds, and Twitter at 45 seconds. So the same piece can be tweaked according to the platform you're going to use it for, and that it gives you the maximum visibility and the maximum impact that you can get with the piece that you've produced. So that's something that we really focus on, and that helps us and our customers with their growth and objectives.
I think that's a wonderful strategy and a great approach. I've seen that during the time that I have done active television and also digital back in India, that yes, this is a very good strategy to also effectively work through limiting budgets that we might have, but also get to messages, and then repurposing, yes, and of course retargeting also has worked very well. Saurabh, what is your take on this?
I think the world has become diverse. So on one hand, there were so many tools to market and showcase the content to people. There was television, there was print, there was newspaper, outdoors, and so many mediums. And now it's become more simpler because when you put an outdoor somewhere, you don't know how many people are going to watch it and what is the concept of spray and pray has taken a backseat, and it's become a little more precise. There's some kind of a method in the madness. There's some kind of a science and algorithm which has come over. That has happened. But what has also happened is that, when we were young and we were always shunned from offices because we were very young. You can't do anything. But today, age is not a barrier. A new kid on the block can come up with a disruptive idea and it can change the dynamics of the thing. The third, which is a very important stage which has come in, is that you no longer need to be in a very big city, in a big bungalow. You can be from a small town and you can be a better storyteller. So from in the top of a game, whether it's Rajkumar Hirani or Anurag Kashyap or anybody, the kind of stories they are saying, even TVF as a content, they are very, very grassrooted Indian stories. So you no longer need to go to a big country to showcase a Russia or a US. People want to go back to Banaras or UP or Madhya Pradesh and things like that.
Yeah.
So, the world has become simpler, and yet it's pretty complex because there are so many dynamics and algorithms. All I can say is that nobody knows nothing. So we all try, test, fail, and try again.
Yeah, I think this is something that is very important, right? For those of us who've been in the video business, creating videos in very limiting budgets has been a forte. So you can actually create a very grand video using very basic resources in a very basic place. You don't have to have grand sets. Of course, no offense to Sanjay Leela Bhansali, but still, I think this is something, you're very right about this, that yes, you want to get to the very basics. And today, I think the fact that there are so many content creators out there, the fact that internet, when you look at TikTok or you look at Facebook, YouTube, it has given everyone access, and especially with the data that is sort of widely available at cheaper rates now in India. You get content creators from every part of the country, and all of it is sort of very empowering for them too. So I think definitely that larger budgets are now not really a trend, not always.
What has also happened is that talent is being valued today. So telling a simpler story is much more difficult than telling a complicated story with 10,000 chandeliers and 20,000 candles. So when you tell a simpler story, I think that becomes a little more difficult. So they are looking at people with talent. They are looking at people who are storytellers, not just a production designer, not just a heavy camera technician. So I think that's become the main way to tell your story and make it reach.
Yes,
and because the reach is also not limited to some 10 kilometers or 15 kilometers. Somebody could buy your product. So that's what is happening.
So that's right. Storytelling has transitioned from heavy-duty cameras to simple phone cameras, and I think we've got all the brands that are creating these smartphones for us. The Google Pixel actually has a way of clicking a picture or a video in a crowded place and then making everyone disappear and just focusing on one object. So these are, I mean, this is not something that you would have heard of a couple of years ago. So yes, a phone, a simple phone, and a simple ability to tell stories effectively is great content. Sandeep, what's your opinion about this?
So we have two products, right? One is Daily Hunt, which essentially caters to the consumer who are interested in consuming news as a content. The other one is Josh, which is the new kid in the block, but something that is riding on the short video format. In terms of ROI and measurement, both of these platforms widely differs. However, the measurement is something that is related to how industry bodies today measures a video performance. And for us, the approach is two-pronged. While both of them is consumer focused and it is about consumer or customer centricity, one aspect is how do we drive the consumption of our platform to our consumer, right? Which is essentially by providing them the right content, understanding their behavior, which is where our AI, ML comes into play. And then the entire factor of personalization becomes very critical. The other aspect is that while we have built this ecosystem, how do we monetize that ecosystem? Now, that monetization of that ecosystem is brand dependent, right? Now, and it varies from category to category, whether it is finance as a category or an FMCG as a category. Each of them have their own specific requirement. And you know, like Rahul was talking about the consumer funneling or the way, right, the journey which started from shareability, engagement, and now it's down the funnel. You're talking about conversions, right? So each and every category have very, very specific requirement. And we use both of these platforms, whether it is Josh, whether it is Daily Hunt, depending on what our brands require. Talking about a bit more on the video front, when it comes to Josh, it's a short video platform. It's hyper local in nature. The whole idea and objective is to drive user-generated content, right? So for us, everyone is a creator. For us, everyone who has the ability to showcase a talent, and depending on whatever genre it is, right, are welcome on our platform to showcase their talent. And it is the user who decides who they want to go for. Of course, we have the backend technology to measure in terms of whether it is the video views, whether it is the watch time, whether it is the shareability to decide how one fares against the other. On the other hand, which is our news ecosystem, and that's an aggregator ecosystem, it entirely is dependent on which customer or consumer is watching what kind of a video and at what moment will it make sense to serve an ad to them, which is non-intrusive in nature, right? Because on digital, the whole idea, unlike there are certain platforms which operates on search, but rest everyone, it's an ecosystem where you like a video, you watch, or else you move to the other one, right? It's all swipe up, right? So creating an ecosystem that is non-intrusive helps us drive a better ROI, but that ROI is dependent, and not just for us, I think for most of us who are there on the panel, is dependent on advertisement, right? Unless you are totally a subscription driven ecosystem. So we juggle between the two, and it's a constant learning for us. What we are using today becomes obsolete tomorrow.
Oh, yes. That's like they say, right? Every once in a while, buzzwords come in technology and disappear. Like I posted about this on LinkedIn, literally like faster than Elon's new Hyperloop train. So yes, that's how, and then marketing also faces this, right? Just a couple of years ago, we didn't hear of a lot of stuff. And then look at the advent from radio to TV to internet and how we're advancing. And today it's faster. I wanted to ask you something. when you said that, everyone is a creator for you, are you also supporting them and looking at more data-driven support for them when they're creating videos on your platforms, and you provide them with special effects? Do you provide them with audio, video, anything that they might want to use?
Yes. So our ecosystem has been data dependent. Data is a catalyst to us. How we essentially help a creator is by identifying not just who is watching them,
Yes.
but how they are even reacting to it. What is the kind of sentiments? And we build cohorts, and then identify that creator, that which specific genre best suits the creator, right? If the creator doesn't know what he or she wants to do, which is where we go back to the data. We help the creator not just with the studio facility, but also tell them the type and format of content that can help, or that can boost their engagement with the end consumer. Addition to that, we also identify the frequency. What duration, or at what interval a video is required from their handle. And being a short video platform, we also bring multiple creators together to engage with each other on a common theme, which essentially we all call it the hashtag challenges, right?
Nice, wonderful. Yeah, so you are basically providing data-driven support to each of your creators too.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Abraham, what does ROI mean for you in your business? How are you measuring it? How are you doing context setting in video? Tell us more about that.
Hi, good evening, all of you. We are in the business of kids content, and we are very focused on creating content for kids. And
that must be a lot of fun.
Well, it is a lot of fun while creating, but while monetizing, it is not all that fun. I can be quite sure about it.
Yeah, how to serve it to them must be quite a challenge.
So obviously, when we talk about ROI, the end point is making money. So how much you spend is not much of a concern, but how much you actually end up making from what you spent is ultimately what we've got to measure. So since we are in this business of kids, all our vehicles are digital. Apart from, we've got multiple verticals in our company. So the best scenario ROI obviously is that I make some content, and we always appeal to an international audience. So if I'm able to sell that content to multiple broadcasters around the world, that is one way of monetizing it, and also make a great digital show out of it on YouTube, and also on multiple kids platforms around the world. So I have content now currently, probably since you're sitting in America, I have content in platforms like Tubi, Zumo, Pluto, Toon Goggles, Kidoodle, Battery Pop. You name any platform in America for kids, we've got our content which is playing up on all these platforms, and we've managed to stitch arrangements with all of them for our content.
Right.
So that's the best way of monetizing. But how much each of them contributes is probably the way which we sort of get on to determine whether we've been a success in that or not. And we also have our own OTT platform, so which is a subscription platform. So that obviously is, apart from the revenue that I earn, I will also look at how many subscribers I gain, so that I can look at a lifetime valuation of those subscribers. That probably is a bit of a value there. But otherwise, on YouTube and Facebook and all, subscribers, very frankly, as of now, does not make any sense, because there's no value that will come to you in terms of monetization from subscribers on YouTube. There's no value attached to subscribers on YouTube now. Earlier, it used to be, but now, there's no point, putting your number of subscribers that you have on YouTube.
Right.
So it's all about how many views you've got from a video, what is your watch time, what is your average view duration, and how much is the revenue that you've made. So the more your average view duration, the possibility of making more advertisement revenue from YouTube. So that's just about it.
So you have double the challenge. You have to appease not just kids, but their parents first to be able to get to the children.
Yes. And earlier it was not so challenging, but since the last couple of years, YouTube got into a lot of problem with COPPA in America. and they had to undergo a restructuring of the way they are serving ads on kids platforms. And as of now, they are not able to serve contextual advertising, so, which means that I cannot, I mean, as a marketer, you can't be offered data as to, a very specific data on who's watching the content, which age group mothers are watching the content, and who's influencing. I mean, all that is not possible in a kids scenario now. You just have got to be very generic in your advertising. So you probably just do ROS advertising.
So there's also a lot of intuition involved in this.
That's the reason the revenue to all creators on YouTube probably would have come down by as much as 60 to 70% over the last 2 years. Which is a very, it's a very common phenomenon, which we all have to live with. But in spite of that drop in revenue, YouTube still is probably the largest contributing platform in terms of creating revenue for creators. So you can't avoid that also. The other platforms have not come up to the level of YouTube even as of now. Even if you aggregate all of them together, I'm saying that value is still not equivalent to the value what YouTube is offering, even at probably 30% of what it used to be earlier. So, so that's a challenge. The biggest challenge now is that you can't create content exclusively for YouTube. Earlier you could, because the revenues were higher. Now, obviously, you'll have to look at all pros and cons and look at, even if you're looking from a pure digital play point of view, you probably have to look at how much you can make from YouTube plus all the other platforms put together, and then, sort of see how it goes. That has been a constraint for all kids creators now.
Okay, got it. Coming back to you, Rahul, context setting in video content may be the easiest, fastest. So I just want you to talk about how each of you actually sort of serve it to your customers, to your partners. How are you sort of attracting different demographics? It's a diverse audience. How are you serving different kinds of content, driving sort of similar goals, and then measuring that? And also, how would you look at, are you also creating content for those who are visually impaired or, or sort of hearing impaired? How do you sort of bring in different categories of people to interact with your content?
I think some very interesting discussion, and very, very nice to hear different viewpoints from the panelists. So when it comes to Shimaru Entertainment and what we do in the business of video, it's quite widespread. We've been in the business for 60 years now, and our genres range from Hindi, Bollywood movies, which is for the masses, to regional languages like Gujarati, Marathi, Bhojpuri. Then we go spread ourselves to kids as well. So Shimaru was incidentally the company which also created one of India's largest kids IP called Bal Ganesh. And then moving on, we also have a large play in the devotion segment. So essentially, we're catering to a large, widespread audience in this country, and we use different vehicles to communicate or bring our content out to people, ranging from our television channels to our OTT offering to social media, YouTube. YouTube also, as Abraham was mentioning, is a sizable pie for most content creators in this country at this stage. And similarly, we sort of take our content internationally as well.
Content creators are actually ruling the world today.
Yes, I think the value of having an IP and the overall reduction of piracy is sort of making it a lot feasible for content companies to be in this business and build that piece.
That's right.
And it's a great phase. I think consumers are also open to experimenting with a lot of different content, thanks to digital. So we are continuously experimenting, how we tell our stories in a video format, looking at, three-dimensional to, different ways of putting out the right content to engage with the audience that we're going to go after. But yes, we are very mindful that we keep, the sentiments attached to the particular genre intact in that. So if we are serving content of devotion to, the HSM belt, we would not essentially put something which is more Bollywood or has something which could be scandalous for that set of audience. So we try and ensure that we are creating the right cohorts of consumers who we're targeting with the video that's there. Speaking on the fact of, are we looking at are we driving an agenda of putting out content for, visually impaired or hearing impaired audiences? We actually are a socially conscious company, and we do make these attempts. And we actually do a lot of partnership with some of the larger brands, such as Google and Facebook, to work on some of these agendas, as and when required.
Right.
I think subtitling and things like that are quite basic now. Most video companies are doing it.
Yeah. And most of them are auto-generated, so that helps.
Yes, but we specifically at Shimaru, we do sort of spend that extra effort to get the subtitling right, because we are very, very particular about, as I mentioned, when you're going and talking to either kids or either people who are coming to you for devotional content, you have to be extremely, extremely careful. And also, I can give you an example: a subtitling in Gujarati auto-generated doesn't make sense. What the version comes to. So we make an extra attempt to make sure that we are getting it right. So we've hired language experts who are category experts who ensure that this is done on an everyday basis from a brand.
I was going to ask you that. How are you going to tackle that whole thing? Because we're such a diverse country. So how are we looking at doing this for people who may not be speaking, not an English speaking audience as such? So are you looking at regional automation when it comes to all of this?
So we have attempted on creating, certain automation tools and using them, but as of now, there is a layer of human intervention we ensure is there. So the SNP teams are pretty much responsible to make sure that every content is looked through. We might add a layer of automation on things we think can move faster, but we haven't really aced it as yet. And I don't know how that will sort of happen in the near future. Maybe Mansi is working on some new technology there and might be able to shed some light there. Yeah.
I was going to say, you guys have been in the business for years and years and years now, and obviously moving with the times, and that is not easy. So congratulations on topping that. How have you actually now looked at moment marketing, serving content at the right time to the right audience? Are you doing that?
Is that question to me again, Mansi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've as a brand, we are sort of in the process of changing how we're perceived currently. So Shimaru, 60 years old, has been in the media industry for many years. Most of us have good memories of Shimaru, but it was essentially a B2B brand, for a large part of the decade, and now we're in transition of making it a B2C brand, appealing to younger audiences. So we do a lot of those actually, and we've done a lot of award-winning campaigns as well. The one I can think of right now, which won an award for us, was Amitabh Bachchan's birthday. So what we did is we actually took a few digital hoardings in Mumbai, and we were putting. So we manage Amitabh Bachchan fan clubs, and we also have one of the largest repository of Amitabh Bachchan films IPs we hold. So we had to celebrate his birthday in a big way, and we took live tweets onto Amitabh Bachchan's digital hoarding from his fans all over the country, and displayed it to entire Mumbai, and created a lot of buzz and magic around that. So we constantly look at ways to engage, with audiences across different cohorts and sets.
Oh, that's nice. So the Angry Young Man is actually found resonance with all audiences. I mean, he continues to remain as popular as ever. So that's a great, Sorry, you were saying?
No, I'm saying it's the kind of messages we were getting for Amitabh Bachchan. People are posting a picture they've taken with him. They had met him maybe 30 years ago. There were actors who were posting on that as well, and we were taking them all on the billboard. They were so excited to see their post of Amitabh Bachchan on the billboard. They were retweeting it. So an entire campaign actually kickstarted on the back of that. So he still is very, very popular. Yeah.
That's wonderful, right? You actually brought alive a lot of memories of people who may have interacted with him in the past, and that's wonderful. That's really, really nice. I mean, I should look up my pictures with him too.
No, if you have, you should send it to us. We will post it for you.
Yeah. We did a show called Game Changers, Keep Walking with the Game Changers, and he was awarded Game Changer of the Century a couple of years ago with when we did this with Diageo and Times Now. So it was a great, I mean, he's an icon. So I think great doing that, great strategy. Mansi, coming to you, in terms of context setting, in terms of demographics, in terms of serving up diverse content in a vast country like India, and of course, regional automation or even moment marketing, and looking at how are we catering to all kinds of audiences, all age groups, given the fact that everybody has a diverse lifestyle. And, like I said, visually impaired, hearing impaired, are you looking at creating special content? How are you innovating on that front?
Right. So again, a lot of interesting points here on language by Rahul. And yeah, I think a lot of it is also what we follow. Unfortunately, no automation as such yet. But what we consider ourselves is that we think that we are the eyes, minds, and the messenger of our customers and their audiences. So we and for every project that we undertake, the objective is quite different. So the first thing is to know it's something very, very basic, but it's something that is really important, is to know the audience really well. So understanding the demographics, the age, and beyond that, what are the pain points and motivators? Because if we're talking about creating, content for WHO, we're making, talking about the global health emergency and, what are the protocols that each country has to take, and it needs to go out really quickly. So that is a different set of audience. Then we're talking about what's happening in Afghanistan. Then we're talking about what's happening in the grassroots levels in India. We're talking about training the farmers, teaching them technology, something which is quite alien, but yet, a lot of it is now happening via video, to going to the UN's sustainable development goals. And, so it's like and to, of course, the brands like the Tatas and, so it's a wide array of customers, objectives, pain points, motivators. But it's always really important to get into their shoes, to become their, like I said, eyes, minds, messenger, and to really, really empathize with them. And that's how I think that's what helps us create and develop the content for them. Visually impaired, since we are a production agency that makes digital content for all kinds of customers. We've done a lot of work for mental health of late. In fact, there's a company in Austria that's created a whole bunch of e-learning content for, which is based around mental health. So, again, understanding what they're going through, developing content in German. So not only just regional Indian languages, but foreign languages as well. So it takes a lot of, understanding of, their problems and, really fitting into their shoes. But visually impaired is something I think that we've kind of not had to deal with yet, but lots of other issues, lots of other, other pain points and other, and, how the video can alleviate those pain points. So that's pretty much what I would say.
So it's evolving.
Yes, and it's basics are same, fundamentals are same, and depending on the audience that you're working with, you have to wear a different hat. But understanding their age, their location, their pain points, their motivators, those things don't change.
Right. Saurabh, we would love your thoughts on this.
So my understanding of the whole business is that you could release a content, it's working very well today, but 3 months down the line, the same kind of content, same kind of genre will not work. Because the consumer habits are changing so fast that today they like a Chinese noodles and tomorrow they would want a masala dosa. But so all the algorithms, all the things, I mean, the best of the business platforms like Netflix, Amazon and everything, they're all struggling because the consumer habits keep on randomly changing. In India, what is happening is that we're going back to our roots. We're going back to our, basics of storytelling. We want larger than life. We want this thing. I mean, after the pandemic, you can see how cinemas are coming back to regional cinemas. So there is no state barrier, language barrier. So you like Narcos and you can make it in Tamil and it can work in Punjab as well. We have Marathi mandals in Bangalore and Baroda where people watch content. So so people are not saying that, oh, this is Telugu, I'm not going to watch it because I'm a Punjabi or somebody else.
No, that's right.
So that's what is happening. Yes, subtitling is easy compared to, you know, dubbing it and whatever. It's Alu Arjun no longer is a South star, or, you know, Prabhas is no longer a South star, or Triple R. If you would have made a Hindi content like this, nobody would have funded a kind of a mega project like this. But today, the kind of money it's given, KGF again, if you look at the editing pattern, if you look at the way it's been made, it looks like a promo. And, you know, yet, you know, it's bringing in all the emotions and adrenaline amongst the youth. And in a big screen, you know, like my eyes get jarred at times, and, you know, the sound is too loud. But am I wrong? Yes, I am, because the film is working very well. Right. Would a similar content like that work next week? I'm not sure. So consumer habits are changing. Yes. We need to be on our toes.
Yeah, so fast-moving world.
It's a fast-moving thing. So all you have to do is that, you know, you have to have your fundamentals right. What is it that you want to say? Like, if I take a learning from South, they will put the emotion, they will put all the ingredients for a good content. They will have songs, they will have a love story, in spite of the fact that it could be a dark thriller or something like that. So if you're clear on what you want to do, the experience only helps in understanding what you want. And sometimes, you know, you want to be disruptive for the sake of being disruptive, and that makes the content look bad.
Oh, so, yeah, that's true. I would love to understand what your conversations with your creative teams are about, you know. I mean, so, it's really tough to get into a content monetization scenario without, you know, heated innovation going on there.
No, so I have 26 different projects, and I have 26 different bunch of group of writers which we chat on this thing. And the first brief which I give is that imagine that you're back in school and you're trying to develop a project to get good marks. I mean, that's the only way you can go with the energy. Don't try to, you know, build a film. Yaar, ye chalta hai, yaar, ye kar do, ya ye kar do. Because that will not work. Just make something which you think you'd want to see. And then once that, you know, the whole structure is done, then you go into the division. That is everything working? Have we finished everything? And then the experienced writer come in and they say, you know, this layer is nice, but you need to add another layer. So it's an amalgamation of young energy of writers, young team of writers who've got great energy with experienced, mature writers who bring in the, you know, method in the madness.
Right. I totally agree with you. I mean, I can't agree more that, you know, you have to put yourself in your customer's shoes, be your first user, and decide how you're going to view this, or would you be able to watch something like this and then go and make it. I mean, I don't think I've ever been able to create content without visualizing that I am its first viewer and whether I would be able to really watch it or not, you know.
Yeah, because there's another one thing which I'd like to say is that algorithms are being abused nowadays, because, you know, you're trying to
I'm sure the techies are not going to like this statement. But
no, but I'll give you an example that I bought a shoe in Amazon, and now every day I see shoes. So I think they think that I only buy shoes. So, you know, I see all kind of shoes now showing. So if you buy,
do you not get messages saying, so people who viewed this also viewed this, would you like to view this? Like, you know, drive you into more and more sort of detailed engagement and entice you to buying more.
But how many shoes will you buy? So all I'm saying is that in India or all over, we are extracting that data, but slicing and dicing of data still has to be done. I'm sure Mansi is doing a great job, but I'm just saying as a whole, that's the most difficult part. You know, understand the psyche, and it's not as easy as it looks. It's not that you got the data, now what do you do with it?
Yeah.
What do you do with it is more complex. Yeah.
Right. Also, I've always felt, and with no offense, that, you know, we're all a very frivolous audience on digital, and it takes just 2 seconds to divert our attention and time span to something else. So, you know, brands have to, I mean, brand loyalty is kind of something that a lot of brands I talk to have been struggling with the advent of a lot of digital audiences increasing, especially during the pandemic. So, you know, this is something that's going to be a very interesting space to watch out for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sandeep, what's your take on, you know, on creating different kinds of content for diverse audiences, especially when you are offering that platform? Do you encourage them to address mental health issues, and how are you tackling, you know, people who are sort of, say, like I said, visually impaired or hearing impaired? How are you planning to create content for them?
So both our product, right? We are operating in an app-first environment, and in an app-first environment, it is to build contextuality vernacular becomes the go-to destination. So today we are operating in more than 15 languages, and the personalization, whether it is in terms of the content recommendation engine or identifying the demo NGO. So there are moments when we are able to identify our customer because there are certain login credentials, but there are times when the login credentials are not available. So then we are dependent on the type of content that they're consuming, basis which there is a modeling which is done to identify who that individual would be, what is the demographic, psychographic would be. And of course, we were one of the a few platforms who has the pin code level targeting scopes and pin code level mapping of our consumer, which essentially helps us to go hyper local. In terms of building contextuality and ensuring the right content is being served to the right customer, the entire app environment gets changed depending on your language preferences. When we are talking about creating awareness about mental health issues, we identify experts who are or who should be the ones who are driving the changes, and we get such kind of people or such kind of organizers on board to create content for us. So not just about mental health awareness, but also about female hygiene, right? Which in many parts of the country is still treated as a taboo. And which is where we identify who should be the app partner to be brought on board. And then we provide them with our ecosystem, whether it is the short video communication or whether it is the news content through which we are able to send across the messages. In that, we further identify who we call as the individual content creator, or it could be a large publisher, or it could be just an industry experts. So we
and your strategy for distribution would be the same for everyone?
Strategy for distribution is dependent on where and who our consumers are. Yes, if I talk about my strategy ecosystem, then my strategy ecosystem is my app. But within my app, over the years, we have built today, just to share some numbers, the news ecosystem, and I'm talking about the digital news ecosystem in terms of consumption, whether we are talking about the digital first publishers or we are talking about aggregators, including the YouTubes and Facebook of the world, is operating about 467 million, right? Out of which Daily Hunt alone is today operating at 350 million plus.
Oh, grown very fast.
So we have audiences, but when we are distributing a content, we need to be extremely mindful. Else, if our content doesn't reach to our desired audience, we do not get the desired results. And if we do not get the desired results, then it doesn't translate to the essential need of any business.
So when you're measuring data and deciding on your GTM strategy for video distribution, do you also leave any scope for error, given that maybe there would be times when the content would have skipped reaching certain people, and not because of any fault of yours, but because of the distribution platforms that you might be partnering with? So how do you then factor that in? And what is the percentage that you feel the anomaly would be?
Sure. See, there is always a scope of error because you are dependent on a technology. When it's easy to say that we have AI ML, but AI ML themselves are learning about the human behavior. Right?
AI is absolutely a lot of ML, right? ML put together and learning.
Yes. So, it requires a constant development. So when we test something, of course, we do the back in QA, and we also leave a scope of error that may happen. But our QA process is very, very stringent. Even before we roll out something for our consumer, there have been times where even after rollout we had to roll back.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But those are far and few.
But that is good, right? That I don't think we should, at the end of the day, I think even audiences understand that. So that is not to be looked upon as a failure. I think it's a learning, and then you do a recourse. I mean, you rectify that.
And while we are app first environment, there are two different ecosystems which is primarily we are operating in. One is an Android ecosystem, which has a different standard behavior. The other one is an iOS ecosystem, which is extremely non-intrusive by nature. Right?
Oh, it is.
So we need to keep both the platforms in mind. So even when we are factoring in how our content will be distributed, whether it is a textual content, whether it is a video content, we take into consideration how and when will the right content will reach to the right audience. And I'll take another example, the most recent example in which we are implementing moment marketing. See, from us, moment marketing is what we are thriving on because end of the day, we are a news aggregator.
Yes. So that makes it easier for you to do that.
Yeah. So over the years, we have learned, we have like-minded partners with various level of API integration through which we are able to identify what is trending and then immediately ensuring that in fraction of seconds, those content gets populated in our ecosystem so that our consumption goes up. Right now, it's an IPL season. And again, in an IPL season, moment marketing becomes very, very critical for us. We need to build that not just for our audience, but also for our advertisers, right? So we have built, I would call it an algorithm in such a way where if there is a six, if someone is out, if someone is, any sort of a moment which is worth capturing while the match is happening, immediately it gets automated and we create a scope to drive the moment marketing right then and there. And it keeps changing. And it keeps changing in every over. So this specific innovation, we do it around the IPL season, makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, every day for us, it is about what is trending, what is trending in news. And Twitter is a go-to destination to understand what is currently trending. But there are other social platforms which also gives those cues. Gets feeded back into our ecosystem. We have a lot of content available to us. And then we start identifying, which particular content should be served.
So what reminds me now out of this conversation is Amul, right? And how they've kind of trended over the years and created humor to sort of resonate with us and in a very nice, and pleasant way. I was going to ask you, what about your video strategies for both the ecosystems on iOS and Android? And when you are measuring, do you use any different strategies for deployment? Do you feel that responsiveness is higher on one? Do you get support from the systems, or how do you do this?
See, both the ecosystem are supportive, and we have dedicated parallel ecosystem existing for both iOS as well as Android with well-defined experts from both the ecosystems who are working for us, creating.
But do you, sorry to interject, do you see larger video consumption on Android or iOS? You think those are influencing decisions?
Yes, because the sheer number of smartphones having Android vis-a-vis a number of smartphones having iOS is a clear defining factor for any of us who is on this panel, right? We know for a fact that the number of Android handsets in the market are leaps and bounds more than an iOS ecosystem. It's still a very, I would say, a niche premium, restrictive niche premium ecosystem. You should be there because there are a lot of decision makers who would want to be in an iOS ecosystem as well.
But I think Apple realized this, right? That's why they launched the iPhone SE, and then they've reduced prices now so that everybody, it becomes more affordable for everyone.
True. So while it is there, I think they still have a long way to go to match up to a 5,000 or a 10,000 rupee smartphone.
Yes,
So
absolutely. I think collaboration, competition is extremely important, and I don't see that happening currently with them. But Android seems to be a little more open. But of course, if you look at a Google phone or if you look at an iPhone, then of course you find no synergy at all. And users actually are the end sort of losers here, right? Because they're the ones who are suffering because of this, because there's this lack of competition.
are they? Because it's my personal view that
I
the
use both
users.
phones, so yes, I can tell you.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
someone who is in that in either of that ecosystem, I have seen that they are so comfortable that they start. One is it's the Apple strategy is such that you have an Apple phone. Okay, the next thing is that you should have a Mac. The next
Yes.
thing is you have a watch. The next thing is you have an AirPod.
Yeah.
Gradually you are so comfortable and cocooned within that ecosystem that you're very comfortable with it.
Your
It's
AirPods speak to that.
but yeah, someone who is equally comfortable with an Android ecosystem today, like what a Samsung provides, for example, they provide the entire ecosystem for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, consumers like probably you and I are the sufferer because we have to be
Yes.
on both the ecosystem, occupational hazard, but
Service provider
otherwise,
maybe, or but there is something here. Google alerts in terms of video, or Google or iOS alerts in terms of news or whatever. Which one do you find to be a little more faster, more efficient? I mean, I have noticed while I'm using both that I feel that Google is pretty much bang on, in that regard. And maybe because, like you said, Android consumers are more, and a lot of video get consumed on Android ecosystem.
So what my observation has been that it is more than the platform. It is a very app dependent in terms of how the notification arrives and whose notification comes first, dependent on the which app. So, for example, today if you are using a particular news app and the real time at which the news are thrown on that app, then you immediately get that notification on your device, irrespective of whether it is an Android or an iOS. So that has been what our observation has been, that news notification, or for that matter, even any sort of video notification, is where which particular notification of the app have you switched on within your ecosystem. So if it is a YouTube notification and you want to be told about any new trailers getting launched, then more than an Android and iOS, it is dependent on how YouTube is operating on that very moment.
Yeah, so we are third-party dependent pretty much, with this entire expansion of internet. And obviously, when we go into Metaverse, Web3, we'll have to see how this shows up. These are pretty much now more operative terms than just out there. And I'll get to Metaverse in a bit. But Ibrahim, what is your go-to-market strategy for a diverse audience? And what is the psychology that you keep in mind when you are creating content or distributing it?
Well, our audience is largely worldwide, and unfortunately, apart from all the other panelists here, we don't have an audience which is too much glued into India. So most of our audience is actually an international audience, which is actually a challenge for us also, because we need to create content which will appeal to an audience which
to
is
children
worldwide.
And parents.
Yes, so we can't stick to only English, because English, I mean, obviously it is a substantial chunk of the worldwide audience, but we also have to create content in Spanish, which we are fairly good at, and also in other languages like, say, German or Arabic, and Brazilian Portuguese. One language which we've not yet tapped into is French, which probably has been a legacy issue, because our business has not been very good in French content, which again is predominantly because apart from France, most of the other French-speaking countries are in Africa, where the revenues are not very high. So people have not actually really ventured much into creating French content, which from an economic point of view is actually a good strategy. The Spanish obviously is a huge market, because apart from Iberia, the whole of Latin America is a huge market for monetization up there. So yes, what works in English may not work in Spanish, so it's a huge challenge for us. And as I said earlier, we had a lot of liberties of creating content individually for individual territories, which is obviously the ideal strategy, that you look at what is being viewed in each territory, what is the watch time, how do you drive them? Because there are a lot of pointers that you get from the analytics. You know,
Yes.
geography-wise, in which geography, who's watching what type of content, what is the view duration. And over a period of time, you get an idea of, you know, if you tweak, where to tweak so that, you know, you get an additional watch time. The whole
Right,
game
right.
is about increasing watch time, nothing
It
else.
is. Yes, yes, that's true.
In an ad-supported model, the whole game is about increasing watch time.
It is, yes.
But there are challenges in the sense that you can't create content freely now. So
Yes.
what
So
we,
you're largely
also,
intuitive in that sense.
so what we also have to do is, keep on figuring out where we can tweak on an English content so that it'll also appeal to a Spanish content.
Right, right.
And where we can sort of make it, squeeze it that much more, and we sort of sweat our assets as much we can, so we make that extra revenue. But especially in an audience like Spanish, we ultimately have to end up creating more content.
That's great.
We also have a great audience in Turkey, but we can't take the liberty of creating content only for Turkey. But
but you also have to comply with various government policies.
We try and tweak it as much as possible so that the other problem is that apart from YouTube and our own individual platform, you actually don't get much of information apart from monthly basis or a quarterly basis from the third-party platforms where our content is upon. So there we have a bit of a challenge, because we've got to rely only on our own data and then try and sort of create our own inferences of that.
Right.
Apart from that, all the platforms in America make it mandatory to do closed captioning. So that is one obligation which we are undergoing. Wherever we've got content up in any platform in America, it is all closed captions. So it is not just subtitling, it has gone one level further now. It's all closed caption.
Right, great. So now I'm going to come to the most interesting part of what everyone's talking about, Metaverse, and how we all as brands going to signal our intent to commit. Disney, Gucci, Nike, a couple of them already sort of indicated. And while a lot of it is largely going to be AR and VR related, seamlessly integrating our physical lives into virtual lives and then creating real-time immersive experiences, largely making everyone a hero in their own story. So how are you, while of course customer is king, how are you looking to leverage Metaverse and create more experiences for your consumers? And do you think that, all of us are so excited about Metaverse and about Web3, but do you think that we would be able to translate that excitement to our consumers who may or may not be sort of that advanced and to understand, to comprehend this experience? We don't know how they would react or respond to this, but I do see that all of us are pretty excited about this. So Rahul, starting with you, you guys have been at the center of innovation for years now. Pretty much everyone looks up to you. How are you looking at doing this?
So one thing Shemaroo is sort of has been pioneering many first video cassettes, then moving on to new formats of DVD, and then latching on the digital bandwidth way back in 2006-07 with a early partnership with YouTube and building our own content. So Metaverse, yes, is a very, very big, important juncture we're looking at very closely right now. As a company, we're confident that as consumers move to more immersive experience, we have to be ready as a brand to offer those to them. Metaverse has always been existing. It's just that the way it will sort of transcend and unfold will create exciting opportunities for us as a video content company and also as an advertiser both. So my personal view currently is that, because the experience is going to be immersive, I think brands have to stop thinking about just advertisements now. They have to start thinking of engagement and interactions, even basic things like having a sales representation in the avatar format in the metaverse, not through a chatbot, but a real person may be also looked at. So there are various factors, the brands are looking at. And Priyanka, I think you spoke about the AR, VR sort of battle. I think that's still, wait and watch. Where does the metaverse eventually evolve to? Is it going to be a mixed reality? Is it going to be a Oculus game? Is it going to be something else? But we are gearing up for this, both from a brand content point of view, and we will sort of wait and see how this opens up to enter the space.
Started working towards it then.
Yes, we're looking at the space. Yeah.
Does it make you excited or a little anxious about how it might be received?
I'm really excited, as a matter of fact. I think it's you know, and I think every brand should be. There's a great opportunity for every brand to engage with customers like they've never done before. You know, so I think use of technology to engage with customers is very exciting. That's the base level I look at. What happens within that is something which I don't think none of us can predict fully right now, but we'll make attempts. Yeah.
Yes, I hope it's received well. But given the fact that a lot of brands have indicated their intention to commit to something like this, you know, do you think that everyone's going to jump and hop onto the bandwagon, or do you think people are going to be cautious about it?
I'm quite sure that you know, it's a matter of another 2 years when brands have to go there, because if customers are moving into the metaverse, you know, you can't be not there. So it's just that, you know, the timelines will be different for different organizations, but eventually brands will be in the metaverse for sure. That's my personal opinion right now.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's very exciting. And I also feel that because ours is a country which moves so fast that, you know, and there are content creators at every corner, nook and corner. And I think that this might just become very widely used, and everyone will have access to it and start creating sort of heroes and immersive real-time experiences for everyone to, you know, experience a more sort of seamless integration of virtual and physical lives. Mansi, what's your take on this?
I think it's very interesting times. We'll again have to also see how brands are adopting it. But like as Rahul mentioned, I think it's about putting people before the brand itself. So, you no more talk about the brand, but it's all about what, you know, it's about the consumers. It's about, you know, adding playfulness, you know, creating different kind of value. So I think it's going to be, you know, there is no place for corporate convention. All the things that we talk about or we educate our clients about, everything kind of goes into the back burner, and we have to come up with everything which is related to, very, very related to customers. So that part of it is going to be super exciting. One thing though, I think, is that if we can create these experiences around the mission that the brand represents, you know, I think that mix is going to be something that, you know, can actually be a game changer and actually can really create an impact. So I think
it might be useful in harnessing brand affinity in
absolutely, and that's a totally different kind of affinity that we're talking about. You know, so I think that's very interesting, and yeah, we can't wait for the brands to adopt it and then create the content for them.
Can't wait to see what you're doing. I hope you're involving customer discovery in this whole process, you know, while you sort of advise your clients to do something like this.
Oh, absolutely. For us, everything is about the customers. Like I said, it's a lot of education. It's a lot of, you know, talking about the marketing funnel. It's about really understanding where their customers are. And in fact, we talk to them about, you know, we say that it's like, you know, going on a date where, you know, if you're, you know, at the top of the funnel, we say that, you know, this is your first date. So, you know, you have to woo your date and you have to, you know, be witty and charming, but put your best foot forward. So which is when they want to make an explainer or a brand anthem, you know, it has to be something really attractive. That's where you spend the money, but it doesn't run too long. Then when you're in the next stage, we say that, okay, you've met the person of your dreams. Now you need to get to know them better. So what are the things that you need to do? This is the time when you create really useful content, things that actually help them. You know, so whether it's app tour videos, whether it's blogs, whether it's, you know, long form content, it doesn't have to be the most expensive. It doesn't, and it can run a little longer, but here it's about, you know, actually providing value and, you know, useful content. And then when it comes to decision, we say that, you know, you've met the person and, you know, they know you now, but how do you get them to say the magical words? How do you actually get them to, you know, make the purchase or, you know, go, you know, any decision? How do they, you know, respond to your call to action? So this phase is where trust becomes really important. So you bring in a third party who actually talks for you. So you do a vlog, you do a case study video, you do a customer testimonial video. So everything is about understanding the funnel and understanding where the customer is, and that's when you create content. Of course, the last bit is, now that you're married or whatever, you have to keep your spouse happy. How do you do that? You have to constantly put in a lot of effort. You have to constantly be there for them. My husband does not have to get me diamonds every day. He can just get me flowers. He can get me, take me to a movie or dinner. So that's how your brand has to interact with them. It doesn't have to be the most stellar production, but it has to be things that provide value and you're there for them. So that kind of thing, that becomes really important. So that's how we talk to our customers and we educate them and work along with them.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Saurabh, films and metaverse, how do you see this?
So I'll talk on a larger scale because I represent content engineers. So when you're talking about storytelling, whether it's an advertisement, whether it's film, whether it's series, the most important thing is that how do you attract the audience and make them, be attracted to the story even after you watched it. So one of the most important thing in storytelling is characters. So how important are the characters? And I was recently just doing something on Mr. India, and they say, okay, whatever Mr. India was, it was the characters which made the film what it was. And several other, almost all the big films. With Metaverse, the characters become immortal. The characters have legs. So today when we talk about, and I'm rounding off your conversation, you talked about ROI. So when we talk about ROI of content, you only have maybe an OTT or theatrical avenues to exploit it, or maybe some digital avenues. But with Metaverse, India still needs to experience merchandising. India still needs to experience the sea of merchandising, which is figurines, toys, games and things like that. So all that can come true with the Metaverse. The more we engage, for example, even a small film like a Hera Fairy, the characters there, the Akshay Kumar, Sunil Shetty, Paresh Rawal, those characters can go beyond and actually interact with you. So I'm just taking them some random names, but you don't need an Avatar or a Avengers to make connect. It could be as simple as Chacha Chaudhary and Sabu who can attract you in a Metaverse. So it's a big learning. It's a big interesting thing. I don't think any brand will say, oh, I'm not interested in it and let me stay, because once A will come in, A to Z, everybody's going to come in. It's the same challenge of telling a story, whether it's in a cinema, whether it's in an OTT platform, whether it's this thing. We are at a very nascent stage. We are at a stage where Doordarshan mein hum log aur bunyad bhi nahi aaye. So in our world, we just touch the basics. In fact, compared to us, the Koreans are doing a phenomenal job in the way they tell the stories, the way they sell their country. I can smell Korea in each and every content of them. So that is something which is going to come up with our storytelling, which is going to get several windows. So Metaverse is another window to tell your story. So for a content creator, for a content engineer, for creative minds, and for commerce guys, I think it's the best thing that can happen. I just hope it becomes as big as people are predicting it to be. So
yeah, imagine content creators being able to showcase all the experiences live and immersive. You're literally living it with them. It would be an amazing thing to see.
Apart from that, if you are a successful film or a series or an ad, it can have legs, it can have wings. So that can spread into the Metaverse. Unfortunately, in India, what is happening is that, everybody wants to stitch a shirt. Nobody wants to specialize in making a button or, making a thread. So even Metaverse will need a lot of detailing, and you'll need specialists for that. So a lot of jobs are going to open, a lot of opportunities are going to open.
Oh yes, hiring has really shut up for Metaverse already.
Yes, but there's a lack of resources. So you get 1,000 applications, but the good ones are only 10 or 20. So that's something which we need to be preparing for, and there's going to be more eyes on the screens now.
Yeah, that's all technology dependent. So it is really impossible to find the right tech talent in these times. There is so much work that Indian techies are doing for the world from India that it becomes difficult to find the right people, entice them, and then of course retain them. So that's a different conversation to have. But yes, it's going to be interesting to see how techies are going to sort of adapt to Metaverse and serve what is rightly meant to be served to our customers.
But compared to others in India, the techies are being trained to become the followers. abroad, they're the leaders. They've been trained to do that. So we need to have, so storytelling in India, the best of the storytellers are jugadus, school mein padhe, Kendriya Vidyalaya mein padhe, now they've become, there's no grooming as such. They are technically geniuses who come across. But now I think training will start and better people, more talent is going to emerge.
Yeah, I think we need to now abandon the whole, sir, ma'am policies and empower, co-workers and employees. I think that's extremely important, and let them sort of operate at their best, right? And train them to be leaders, train them to be thinkers, train them to ideate and not necessarily follow. I think that is a very good point you've raised.
Yeah.
Sandeep, coming to you.
So for me, Metaverse is the next level of personalization, right? And essentially, your data, cloud, AI, VR, and sensors, right? All of these are coming, creating a metaverse, which is an alternate reality. We were talking about brands coming to metaverse. Brands will, it's like they will have to come to metaverse because that is where the consumers are. That is where either the consumer are or the consumer is going to be, right?
Or we will lure them to that.
Or we will lure them to that. And the whole ecosystem of, say, a video, which started as an ecosystem which required appointment viewing, to an ecosystem which doesn't require any appointment viewing, and it gets personalized in terms of its recommendation engine, to a consumer's purchasing behavior where you had to go to a destination to buy a product. From there, today you can sit anywhere, order, and it will be delivered to you. Now imagine the recommendation engine and the purchasing engine coming together in an alternate reality, which you enter and you have everything at your disposal, right? So today, your favorite go-to destination is there in a metaverse. You're able to interact, right? And even before creating such augmentation, let's talk about something very basic, right? Today, we want to be in touch of our near and dear ones, right? And especially after COVID, somewhere we have understood the importance more, right?
Yes, of human relations and connections.
Of a human relation. Metaverse makes that experience even deeper, right? So the factor, the nostalgia, the emotion of a human being can be heightened in a metaverse.
Yes.
And that ability to do that is because of the capability of sensors that are available today in a metaverse ecosystem, which then further gets divided into industry. Gaming is already an industry which is
gaming is the first to adopt it.
Then comes your
tourism. Look at Microsoft's acquisition too, right? I was reading up on that. I mean, that's crazy. I think it was announced in January, but I think it has probably come through now. It's a $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, right?
True.
Which makes Microsoft the third gaming ecosystem.
Yeah, and they'll end up becoming one of the largest gaming ecosystem today, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a fast adoption. I think adoption is extremely important. That's another thing I was coming to, right? That corporates, it takes a while. But say, smaller firms are sort of faster to this. Maybe startups are faster to adapting. And so this is something that I think we might, but again, a lot of people, smaller firms or startups might have sort of some, constraints, but larger companies will probably move slowly towards it. So we'll have to find a balance there.
So if I can answer that, there are two kinds of companies which have been there in existence, have certain legacy, which eventually becomes a legacy issue for them. And then there are digital born companies, right? Now the digital born companies, like, for example, a Facebook, which today known as Meta, acquired Occult or Oculus many years back.
Correct.
Today, they are putting it to use.
Yes.
AI VR has been there in existence for a very long time, both with Google or Microsoft. They knew how technologies are going to emerge. They knew, or at least they had that vision.
Yes. I mean, it started with even 3D gaming in video games parlors, right? Years ago.
Right. So essentially, there are companies who will do the catch up, and there are companies who will be there, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's just depending on how fast you can adopt the technology, how fast you can make sure it reaches your customers, and then how fast the innovation works. Because by the time it translates into a larger corporate, it might take a while. But obviously, fastest fingers first in that regard. So
that's where the question of mental health comes, because it's not just the individual's mental health, it's the mental health of the organization as well. Any
yes.
company which will give proper breaks and boost to the employee, as well as quick decisions are going to be made, they're going to grow. So the mental health of the organization will also, I mean, they need to realize that it has to be quick and leaner and meaner. So
Yeah, so it's a metasphere in the organization that will lead to metaverse being sort of implemented faster, maybe. But yeah, you're right. Abraham, what's your take on metaverse? Are you guys interested in getting into it? How are you going to then use it to make it more exciting for children?
We are very excited about the possibility of, from our point of view, it'll probably be an opportunity to harness engagement with our audiences, and if that process actually helps in incrementing the watch time that we have and incrementing the engagement that we have with our kids,
Right.
that's great. And my personal hunch about this is that any organization which has got good IP and which has got a good recall, say an IP like say Chacha Chaudhary, and
Right.
if I can create an entire metaverse experience around Chacha Chaudhary, I mean, I just mentioned Chacha Chaudhary because that's one of our IPs, which we one of the few Indian IPs that we sort of market. So there are huge possibilities of the metaverse, and we are quite excited. Now, to what level of personalization and what level of recommendation would be allowed for kids is what
That's
we
yet
need
to
to
be
watch
seen.
out for.
Yeah.
But definitely for a higher age group audience, the possibilities are much more.
Right. So largely that
But
would also be data driven.
yes, it'll all be data driven, absolutely. But the advantage that we have with the kids audience is that if we are able to harness them in terms of larger engagement, higher engagement, probably that will, end up being with us for a much longer duration. So we are very frankly, we are quite excited, and we are excited about the possibility of creating endless content, because as somebody just mentioned, the whole thing is about, thinking quickly and how creatively you can create content which is metaverse driven, so that you can drive that engagement amongst your audiences, is also something which is going to be very important as we enter that universe, because
Yes.
as of now we are all I mean, we've got no clue as to how it will be, but we hope that it's going to be very big and it will come with a lot of opportunity. But yes, we are definitely, very positively and interestingly looking forward to that.
That's good to know. So exciting time for children and parents alike. Closing remarks from all of you in terms of anything that you would want to say to content creators, anything that you would want to say to brands or to customers, and any advice to anyone out there on using video, harnessing ROI, and sort of resonating with your audiences. Rahul, starting with you.
Wow, okay. that's a lot of I don't necessarily have an advice to people. I think the video business is a creative business, and we have to put that creativity in. I think, like Saurabh mentioned, we get a lot of data, but what do we do with the data is important, and I think that's where I would, where we are focusing as a company, and the more I engage with our partners, our agencies, that's more of a discussion we do these days. I think that's where the world is moving. As marketeers and brand owners, we should look at that closely. Bring in the right balance of creativity and data is what we would like to achieve. So that's the focus with me.
Thank you so much. That was definitely a very enlightening discussion. Thanking all the panelists and our moderator. In the interest of time,